The idea of evil is an astral being that exists in the deepest layer in the astral world. It came to exist long ago as a response to humanity's wish for reasons for suffering, sadness, wars, and senseless killing. Its existence is essentially to be the whole reason for strife amongst humans, to be evil, to do evil, and to cause evil things to happen. These were all manifested into a being within the realm of idea. When it comes to the astral beings, the deeper the layer, the stronger the being is. As a being whose existence is considered to be God in the physical world, it's only natural that the idea of evil exists very, very far away from humans, the same humans who brought that God to existence. This means that the long distance prevents it from interacting with humans directly and keep the cycle of evil going so that the idea of evil doesn't fade away. That is when the Godhand comes in. Even though we don't know for sure how the idea of evil first reached out to humans, we at least know that it happened thousands of years ago. In ancient times, the physical world and astral world were largely intermingled, though they would come to be almost completely independent from one another at some unknown point. This could be the point in time when King Geyserik lost his entire kingdom to the Godhand during an ancient eclipse about 1,000 years ago. The Godhand are human beings from the physical realm that have been chosen by the idea of evil. They are basically second in command, acting upon the will of their God, the desired one. Their purpose is to sow evil amongst humans and keep the cycle of suffering going. As long as suffering exists, so does the God that causes it. The Godhand members of Berserk each represent a finger of the right hand of the great God. The thumb, occupied by Void, is the essential part of the hand, as a hand would be almost unrecognizable and unusable without it. The index finger is held by Femto, which hints at Griffith's role as a leader who will guide both the blind white sheep and the black sinful sheep into the promised land. The middle finger, occupied by Slan, speaks for itself. Knowing Slan's nature as a sex-driven demon who only finds satisfaction in lust and the suffering of others, it only makes sense that she occupies the middle one. Ubik occupies the ring finger, which is associated with wedding and engagement rings. This fits with how his ability of mind control is useful in persuading those chosen to go through with the sacrifice. Lastly, the pinky finger is held by Conrad, which fits Conrad since he is associated with gross things like sickness, bugs, rats, and disease. Same as apostles, the Godhand members were also humans once, weak and frail, with a heart of evil and malice. Such is the nature of humans. Unlike the apostles, humans who were destined to be Godhand possessed different behelits, called the Crimson Behelits, or the Egg of the King. It's said to grant one the world in exchange for the owner's flesh and blood, falling only into the hands of those bearing the requisite qualities to become a member of the Godhand. Once every 216 years, during the eclipse, an owner of the Crimson Behelit is granted an audience with the Godhand. As preordained by causality, an owner will offer a precious sacrifice in exchange for being reborn as a member of the Godhand. The scale of the sacrifice usually differs when it comes to the Godhand. Unlike apostles who offered a couple of humans, Griffith and possibly Void are known to have sacrificed thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. In Griffith's case, he sacrificed the remains of his band, estimated to be around 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers. As for Void, he was the sage that was imprisoned by King Geyserik, who ended up sacrificing the entire kingdom, which fell into ruins as we saw at the bottom of the Tower of Rebirth. During the Conviction arc, in the attempt to imitate the eclipse, the four Godhand played an important role in setting up the right circumstances for the rebirth of Griffith. Slan influenced the foundation of a pagan cult who knew her as the goddess of flame. She imparted a revelation to the prophet of the cult about how the falcon would repel the barbarians and lead the people to be one nation. As for Ubik, he was responsible for the mass dream of the Falcon of Light that gave the people of Midland a collective wish to hold on to and eventually bring into being. Conrad was the one behind all the rats and plague that took over Midland. As for Void, he probably was the cause of the storms and earthquakes, given his power of spatial manipulation. The only Godhand members whose origins we know are Femto and Void. Femto sacrificed his band of the Hawk, As for Void, he was a sage once, who could have been either a close friend or an advisor to the king, only to be betrayed by him and locked away when he spoke up against the king and proclaimed his sins. It was believed that the Godhand were invincible for so long, until we had a peek at memories which showed us an ancient eclipse, with Void in the middle standing amongst 4 beings who could possibly be the old Godhand members, hinting at the possibility that Void's destiny to become the 5th and the completion of the Godhand was probably ruined by King Berserk, who had his hands on the Berserker armor at the time.